This is Rachel Dworkin from the Chemung County Historical Society. Today is April 7th, 2022, and I'm interviewing for the COVID Memory Project. Today I'm speaking with...
Hi, I'm Julie Delgrosso. I'm recently retired owner of the Christmas House in Elmira.
Great, thank you very much. So, how long did you run/own the Christmas House?
We purchased the business. We're actually the second owners of the Christmas House. It was in business for 39 years, and we owned 28 of those years.
Okay.
So since 1993, I guess that would be.
So for the folks who have never been or don't know, what is the Christmas House?
The Christmas House is a seasonal gift shop located on the south side of Elmira. One of the wonderful points about our business is it was housed in an 1894 Victorian Queen Anne mansion. So that was unusual in a retail gift shop, still is unusual. It was a painted lady, and a painted lady is a Victorian term, meaning a building that's painted 4 or more colors, and ours is painted 16 colors.
Okay. So, tell me a little bit about how the pandemic affected your business.
Well, it's funny, when I was thinking about how the pandemic affected my business, if you had interviewed me at the time, words like stress, worry, and concern might have come to the forefront. But looking back on it now, I also saw it as a great time of opportunity for us and for other retail shop owners. So I guess if I had to sum it up in one word, I would certainly say that the word would be opportunity. It was an opportunity for us to showcase our survival skills, for one thing. It also helped that we were a seasonal business. We don't traditionally open until July 1st every year. You know, the pandemic started in March, and that gave us a little wiggle room. Little did we or anyone else know how long this was going to continue on. But what made it easier for a seasonal business like ours is that once we realized it wasn't going to be over in 2 weeks, we could immediately take some steps to make sure we could survive. We quit going to shows. We were very careful. We looked over all the orders we had already placed for the upcoming season. And some of those we trimmed or scaled back on, or perhaps even canceled altogether, keeping in mind that one of our goals all along has been to help the community, right from the day we bought that business. So we had to make sure that we also didn't do things that would hurt the community or our employees or our vendors who are partners in this as well. Our 2-year plan, I joke and say our 2-year plan became a 2-month plan. At the point of the pandemic, we knew that our retirement was going to happen in January of 2022.
So this was planned, your retirement? Or had already been?
We had already had that in the plan for our retirement. So when we did announce our retirement in July of 2021, of course, many people had questions whether this was due to the pandemic and if it was due to COVID, and it was not. And we announced our retirement by having an event at the store on July 1st, attended by 120 or 130 people. And at the time, we gave all the reasons because we knew we were going to be answering those same questions over and over. One of them being, are you closing because of the pandemic? And the answer was no. I did give my husband, who was more anxious to retire than I am, I gave my husband, Mark, the opportunity to come that year. I said, do you think this should be the year? Should we move up our retirement plans and close this year? Should this be our final season? And it was a surprise to me since he was anxious to move on to some other shenanigans. It was interesting to me, and I was surprised that he said, no, let's keep with our original plan, that we will announce it on July of 2021, and the actual retirement date will be January of 2022. When I use the word opportunities, the opportunities that were presented to us included things like cleaning, also the opportunity that was presented to people in their homes as well. Every nook and cranny in that building, you know, that's a 3-story plus a basement plus a cellar Victorian home. And there were always things that we never got to. This gave us an opportunity to get to those things, to clean out every last closet that we hadn't looked in years and go through the carriage house and see what was there. and also to use the product that we found to put on the floor, things that we had forgotten we had, or thought we were saving for some other use. Another opportunity is that we had much more meaningful interaction with our in-house customers. There were fewer of them. So we could spend more time with people and build more relationships with them. Another thing we did is we reopened our web store. We had a web store, I think, 3 different times. It had never been very successful. And we decided this was the opportunity for us to reopen it. And we had a webmaster who was actually located in England, Michelle Charles, and she set up the web store for us, and that generated quite a few sales, including sales from people who would visit our store once a year when they were in town visiting family, or they had passed through on their way to somewhere else. And so that let us build relationships with online people as well. We added things to our retail mix like in-town deliveries, curbside service. The word curbside had previously only been used, I think, when you went to pick up your takeout meal from somewhere, but in fact, retail stores, ours included, began curbside service. We did some private shopping events. There were people who did not feel comfortable, even though we required masks, did not feel comfortable coming in the store to shop. So we would arrange private shopping for them. They would come outside of store hours and would do their shopping there. It was something that I didn't need employees, just my husband and I were able to do that.
So how did you arrange that? Did they call? Did they reserve on the website, or was it just by phone?
No, it was mainly by phone or by email, or honestly, a few of them were probably Facebook was the biggest venue that we used to get the word out to people that we would be willing to do this. And even if people didn't take advantage of it, they were very, very pleased and happy with us that we were offering such a thing. We did have 100% mask compliance, I mentioned, and that did cost us some customers, some folks who would not come in because of the mask mandate. So on a negative side, we did have a little bit of that, but we were obeying the rules that were put forth. We're rule obeyers, so that was the rule for the store. Another opportunity is we had more interaction with staff and among staff. We could actually do more training events. We could do more social events. We could talk more about grandkids or things going on in their lives. One perk of working at the Christmas house, I believe, was that we all became a family there. And we had always been that anyway. But I think it really helped our social cohesiveness to have more opportunity, not to always be 100% busy 100% of the time. So I think there might have even been a lot more laughter during pandemic times. I think it gave an opportunity for us to become almost like a new entrepreneur. I remember when I was new in business, and I read all the books, I still read the books, but things that you did because you had to watch your money. Well, the pandemic hit, and guess what? We all had to watch our money again to make sure we were going to survive. So we did more shoe leather marketing is one of the terms I use for it. And that's things that you can do that don't cost a lot of money. Maybe they cost some of your time. It might be things like putting up posters. It might be making phone calls to existing customers. Things that you do that cost time and not money. Things that you do a lot of times when you're new in business. But as you become more successful, we often let those things drop. The whole concept of doing more with less became very real again. On a personal note, we tightened our belts. We didn't go out to eat as much. We did everything we could. And that was good for our marriage, too. I mean, we have a good marriage, but every night we would actually sit down on the front porch of the Christmas house and we would grill our food and make our salads, and we would sit out there and talk about the day. We spent a lot more time doing that type of thing. I would have thought we would have gotten bored with each other, but we didn't. So we did that for probably 2 years. One expense that we did have related to the pandemic, besides we had masks available for free at the right outside the door. We had a little butler guy, and on his tray we gave free masks. We did hand sanitizer, all those things that were a little bit of an expense. One thing that was probably the greatest expense, but was worth every single penny, is we hired a door tender for busy weekends, so we could limit the number of people who were in the store at any given time. Our door tender was the perfect person for the job. Bernadette Cleary Drew was our door tender, and she kept the crowds on the porch amused and having a ball. So sometimes I almost felt that when they finally did come in the store, they were almost disappointed to leave the cold porch where Bernadette was entertaining them. And we also had hot drinks on the porch and things to keep them entertained besides just Bernadette's sparkling personality. I don't know if I mentioned, we increased our web presence. We did more Facebook Lives. We had been doing occasional Facebook Lives for about 5 years already at that point. So we were a little bit ahead of the curve on that.
So what were you doing on your Facebook Lives?
We would do different things. We did a Friday news and notes type things, what was coming up for the weekend. On Mondays, we did a Mad for Monday event, which was either an auction type event or an event telling about things that we were putting on sale, and they could order right then. They could go then to our web store and they could order those items that were talked about during that event. We didn't make it all about selling. Facebook's a social media, and we understand that. So we made sure that it was social. One big hit of it that came out of it is my husband joined me. He was my cameraman, an amateur cameraman, but the folks watching really enjoyed his 2 cents. Usually they were off the cuff. Many times I wanted to script him so he wouldn't do so much off the cuff, but it really gave him more of a personality in the store that people might not have seen before. And sometimes our employees would join them. They weren't perfect, and I think that's what made them so successful. If we were out on the porch recording, here comes a loud truck right by through, and so we just had to go with it. One time I dropped the camera. I mean, some of the goofy ones were the ones that were most successful because they saw the human side of us and our senses of humor, which we certainly needed during all that. One other thing we did during the pandemic, which we should have done years ago, was we looked at every single expense we had and said, okay, now's the time we've got to pay attention to those things that most of us dread looking at. Is there a different way or a less expensive option for our credit card processing, for our phone lines, for our insurance costs, things like that, stable expenses that, I don't know, somewhere along the line, many of us quit looking at. They're just static expenses. They go up, they go up, they go up, and we never question it. And we went through all those with a fine-tooth comb and realized things like we had a fax line coming into our business. When is the last time that we received a fax that wasn't about a free Florida vacation or some other spammy stuff that was coming through? And, I don't know how much we were paying a month, maybe an extra $30 or $40 for that particular phone line. But over the course of the year, that saved us several $100s. So we looked at, every expense we could and actually made phone calls and found out how we could change that. We also had a toy store at the mall, at the Arnott Mall, Happy Hippo. And that did get the axe after the pandemic. It was closed for several months, and we kept it going through the end of that year. And when the term was up for our lease there, we wanted to stay. The Arnott Mall, who had been great partners, wanted us to stay. But at that point, no one felt the Regal cinemas were going to come back. The cinemas upstairs in the mall, the theaters. And that was a big part of our business. It was a toy store business, and we really depended on traffic coming from the movies. We tried to crunch the numbers. We tried to crunch the numbers to make it happen. But also in the back of my head, I was saying that come 2021, we were going to announce our retirement. Staff didn't even know it at that point. and we're going to need extra employees. Here are people that already understood my vision of retail customer service and my concept of how we want to run a business. So I had 7 or 8 employees already understanding that, and it just made sense that it was an opportunity, again, I use that word, an opportunity for us to invite all the employees from that store down to Maple Avenue, and that would fill in the extra help we would need during the busy season when we announced our retirement. And we needed them.
So the mall was closed longer than most freestanding retail was. Do you remember how long that was?
I'm not quite sure, but we closed in mid-March, and it seems like it didn't open until mid-July. I can't be sure of the exact dates. But our employees, we had never had employees one time ever collect unemployment insurance. We have paid into the unemployment for years, and no one ever utilized the benefits. And I encouraged all of our employees, even those who didn't want to be quite frank, to apply for unemployment. There were especially 2 holdouts that didn't want to apply, and I suggested that they do that, and they can use that money to help somebody. They can use that money to get takeout from restaurants to help during the pandemic, to pay for somebody's, one used it to pay for somebody's vet bill for their pet. Do something good with that money if you don't need it yourself. A lot of our employees, all of them were part-time, and most of them did it because they wanted something to do. They wanted something fun to do, but not on a full-time basis. So that really worked well, that we utilized the unemployment benefits. And I would say to them, we've been paying in for 39 years and only ever used them once. Please go get some of my money back. And that's how I would present it. And that would usually, I usually hear a chuckle, and maybe it would encourage them to go apply. So that made me also feel better that I wasn't putting people out of work, even if they didn't, quote, didn't need the money. Money can always be used for some good cause.
Did you end up opening on time in 2020?
For the Christmas house, we did open on time, and we did keep our regular hours, but of course, we had fewer people we could have in the store at any given time. And at that point, we had already figured out how to reopen our web store and hopefully have it open about the same time, and doing curbside deliveries, in-town deliveries, curbside, all those things. We did find that most of our customers that came in July were people who were traveling. We did see an uptick of people from New York State area traveling to us. We had visitors from all over the country and internationally, and we did see that the international traveler visiting the Christmas house was down in numbers, but people, especially from New York, New Jersey, from the downstate area, started to look for more of a staycation type of an arrangement. They knew they couldn't go too far, but they still had the itch to get out and travel. And that really helped our region a lot, because we were well positioned because of Chemung County Chamber of Commerce, their Mark Twain country, and Finger Lakes wine country, all of the people who promote in different areas. That helped all of us. So when the time came when they were looking for somewhere, we were top of mind.
So I know your husband has a side hustle with the Chamber of Commerce doing the Mark Twain trolley tours normally. He was unable to do that for the last 2 years, or was he doing anything with that?
No, unfortunately, for the last 2 years, the trolley tours did have to be canceled. There was no way to do the separation of people, the social distancing that was needed to run those trolley tours. The opportunity for me is that I had a full-time unpaid employee. And so whether he knew it or not, but I've got to say, he did not complain. He stepped up to that plate. He was there every day by my side. We did have to cut some employee hours, but it was done in a way, almost a volunteer basis. I said in July of 2020, I said, who wants to have the summer off? You know, a lot of them have, you know, lake homes or, you know, want to go away, visit their kids in the summer. And several of them said, I'll take the summer off. I'll come back in the fall. Hoping at that point that, you know, business would be busy enough to have people off. So having Mark there full time was a great asset. It also helped with some of those things that you never get time to do. We never get time to do this. We never get time to go through filing cabinets. We never get time to go look at those nooks and crannies. And so he was helpful for the manpower for that as well. The honey-do list was long, and he stepped up to the plate. He will, talking about the trolley in the Mark Twain country, I believe they are looking at bringing that back this year, and he is going to do that one more year. So he hasn't retired from that job yet. He'll have at least one more year in him, is what he's promised the chamber. So that will give him, I think, his 20 years. The funny part about the trolley job that he had was that he agreed to do it on a basis until they could find someone else. He was just going to fill in. So that's the joke. He's still filling in 20 years later, but now he really has, you know, given him a date to leave. But obviously it's a job he's loved. He loves history. He loves the entertainment and the people. And it's been a, you know, 20-year fun ride for him.
Good. So economically speaking, how do you think you did 2020 compared to, say, 2019, and how do you think you did 2021 compared to 2020 or 2019?
Well, we set goals knowing that we should make them a little bit smaller and lower, but I really kept my mouth shut during those 2 years because we met our numbers and we did well. But I think that was because you have to put on your survival skills, and I had mine on and ready to go. I had already, you know, I figured out, because I had several months before we actually reopened, I had several months to figure out how are we going to survive this. And all of those things I previously mentioned, you know, I put into play. I would say was the money down a little bit? It might have been down slightly, but by slightly, I mean less than 5%. And in 2021, we were actually up in sales. Because so many people were suffering, I did not talk about that. You know, so many other businesses and friends who own businesses who were going through a tough time. I felt like it would be like bragging that our business was doing well. So you never heard me complain about it on Facebook Live or any other media because I had nothing to complain about.
Were there any other ways that COVID impacted your business? Like, did you have any employees who got it? Did you guys get it?
No, we were so fortunate and so lucky that none of our employees and neither of us got COVID. We had a very strict regime that we all followed in the store, not just masks and sanitizers. We purchased air cleaning machines for the store, so at night you had to have nothing living in the store, no pets, no people. Well, that's the spiders. I didn't mind if there were any spiders because they'd be dead by morning. But you plugged in this machine, and it cleansed all the air. You know, we had a more of a cleaning regime than we'd ever had before. So we did everything we could. There was one scare with an employee who had a family member who contracted COVID. And that was the only thing I can think of. And she did not get it. But we had her in quarantine and away from the store during that period of time until we made sure that the tests were okay. But we did, the New York State provided a template basically to things that we should be doing. And we did all of those and more. We did above and beyond what was required because I wasn't even sure we should be open during some of this, but it was our livelihood. You know, it was our employees' part-time livelihood. So I was hoping that we would be able to do that and still stay healthy, and knock on wood and God bless, that's what happened.
Okay. Would you say there's any other ways that COVID has impacted you or your family?
No, I think that the impact to family, it's just the two of us, my husband Mark and I. And I think, as I mentioned earlier, it made our relationship stronger. We spent a lot more time together. Now, we work together every day. And so people think that's spending time together, but it's not. You know, he's doing his thing and I'm doing my thing. And it's sort of like any other couple. At the end of the day, you sit down and discuss your day. And we had a lot more time to do that. We were not socializing, we were not going out. And mainly that was because we had to protect our employees and our customers. So I couldn't be super safe during the day and then decide I was going out at night and, you know, going busy places. We just gave up our social life. And as much as I missed that, especially for the first couple months, I missed that interaction with other people. It also was a blessing and a good thing in the long run that I learned how to calm down a little bit and that I didn't have to be moving every single minute of every single day. And so maybe that helped prepare me for retirement. I'm not sure because I'm still awfully antsy, but having that extra time and extra time to connect with family, whether it be, you know, phone calls. I actually even wrote a few letters just because how much fun is it to get a letter in the mail? And we never do that. I had more time, you know, to spend with a few choice people. You know, I visited my mother a couple times, always with masks. She's 88 years old. So it provided us with more couple time, and that worked out well.
Good. Um, so I know you guys have retired. Has anyone taken over the store, or is the Christmas house no more?
No, the Christmas house is no more. That retired when we retired. The building itself is being purchased by Jim Capriati, who's a local historic preservationist and will do a good job with it. I've heard through what he is planning will be apartments on the upper floors, but the first floor will be apartments unless someone has another idea. So if there's still an opportunity there, if someone has a business idea, to contact Jim and see what they could work out. I would love to see that.
Is it still zoned for mixed use?
Say that again?
Is it still zoned for mixed use?
It is. It is mixed use building. I'd love to see that first floor being used for a cafe, for example. That beautiful wraparound porch. There's not a lot of food options on the south side. A bakery, a cafe, something like that would be wonderful for that neighborhood. So if anyone is interested in something like that, Jim is certainly very community minded, and that could be a possibility. Right now, we are still living there. We live on the third floor of that building. We will be moving to an apartment downtown. Actually, it's one of Jim Capriati's apartments. And when in a historic building, we're not leaving our history behind, but a lot of the one question we got a lot of is people asking where we were moving to, thinking we were going to move out of state. We are snowbirds. We go to see my sister in the winter months in Florida. And so they were often a bit surprised when I would say, yeah, we're moving across the river. We're going to be downtown. You know, we're going to be close to everything and everything going on. And we're very excited about moving downtown. You know, do I wish I could have stayed at the Christmas house longer? Honestly, yes. My husband had hoped that we would keep the business would be in existence 25 years and then we'd retire. My hope was 50 years and then we'd retire. So we had to compromise. Yeah, we compromised at 39. And as you can see, that's not quite in the middle. So I got an extra year or two out of them in the deal. But yeah, that was the deal, is that we had to come up with something. And, you know, and we had made the decision and come up with a date 3 years prior to actually retiring. So that gave us plenty of time to work through all the particulars and how we wanted to do it. I have said to people, I think I have studied going out of business as long as I have been in business. It has always been fascinating to me. And I did think that one of my retirement jobs might be helping people when it's time for them to retire. I'm in several retailer groups. And sometimes when people announce they are thinking of retiring, I have helped them with some suggestions that I learned over my experience. But it was sort of a fun project to work on, and thinking about how I was going to work on it kept my thoughts away from the actuality that I wouldn't own the store anymore, which was heartbreaking. Um, so I didn't get my 50 years, but we got 39 of them, so I couldn't ask for more than that.
Well, that's good. Did you actually sell out of your stock, or do you still have things that you're like selling online or something?
No, we actually sold down the stock. When it got, after we had the sale after Christmas, we invited local groups to come in that were charitable type groups,
Mhm.
and we offered them anything they could use at no cost. So, as you can imagine, free shopping sprees were very popular. Arctic League came in and got all new decorations. We had several nonprofits do that. And then we contacted area mom and pop type business, small businesses, entrepreneurs that could use some of our products that we had left over because we had a lot left. So one local business took all of our candy and our candy cabinets that they could use. Another took some jewelry, a small jewelry company took all of our jewelry. So we gave away um, anything that was left. When all was said and done, we had a store in Lyons, New York, Evolve, Evolve, Evolve. He had contacted us last summer. He was opening a year-round Christmas store, and we met several times and talked about his store and ideas and what to carry and what not to carry. And so at the bitter end, he came and took and is taking, he's not quite done yet, everything that is left for a flat price. The flat price was pennies on the dollar, but he's happy with that, you know, getting all that he got for pennies on the dollar. And we're happy with that, that we got rid of everything, absolutely every last thing. And that we were also helping another small business owner. So it worked out well. Looking back on it now, I think, oh, I should have saved myself. You know, this, I look at my sister's dish towels here and think, oh, I should have saved some of those cute dish towels we had. But I know where they are. I can go up to Lyons, New York and buy them back if I need to.
Okay. Um, where did your business records end up? Or do you still have those? Because I know a place that would like them.
Oh, no, I think we still have them. I don't know what you mean by business records, but we can certainly talk about that.
Okay. Yeah. Is there anything else that you would like to discuss for the interview?
No, except to say that we were very, very grateful, and a huge heap of thank yous to the local folks who continued with us, you know, whether it be curbside, in-store, private shopping, whatever. And the outpouring of love and support from local people and local businesses to help all of us, not just the Christmas house, all of us stay in business during this rough time. And it's not over yet. You know, I mean, there's still help needed out there. So we were very grateful that people stepped up to the plate. Now I know my UPS and FedEx drivers talked about their huge increase in Amazon packages being delivered. So I know everybody was still doing a lot of shopping, but it seems to me like there was more recognition for shopping locally and the importance of that. If you wanted us to be here after all this is over and done, you needed to open your wallets and not just talk the talk. You needed to walk the walk and actually spend your money locally as well.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for speaking with me.
Yes, thank you for inviting me.